Okay, so I started out teaching, I confess, with a rather, I'll call it honest, but maybe naive view of what the classroom was going to be like. I thought I would never need to bribe students and that I wouldn't be giving them things to get things done, and they were just expected to get things done. And to some extent, that's true with work. But what I do find is that in the classroom, it does help to have some sort of reward system in place. And that reward system doesn't necessarily ensure that they get their work done, although that is tied into my system. It what it does is it shows them what happens if you work hard and what can you save for and what can you spend for. So to do that, I use my super savings classroom reward system. I use it for my financial literacy. When I taught 4-5, I used it for my addition and subtraction unit as well, and really emphasized how to add with decimals, and that was excellent. We could use some numbers that were real life examples. Now that I've moved up into upper grades, I use it as more of a financial literacy piece. It's great for those students that need scaffolded practice with the addition and subtraction, but it's really the purpose for the upper grades to me is more the responsibility and the positive behavior and that financial literacy piece. So we start the year talking about what different jobs are available in our classroom system. And in my Super Saver program, we go over the initial setup, things that you need to know, what you do through the month. Um, but to begin with, we go over some potential jobs. And I often have kids suggest jobs, and that's great. I can have them suggest a job, and that's terrific. And if they do that, then might incorporate that in. One of the key people for me is always the technology assistant because they plug things in. Personal assistant, they kind of just do what I need them to do. So they're handing things out, they're taking things to the office. Class banker, they check all the bank books because kids must keep a bank book and it must be accurate. The banker must be good at math. So we talk about what skills are needed for each of these jobs. If you're not somebody that likes math, banker might not be the best person or job fit for you. Custodian, always needed. And my kids know that I like my room neat, but I have no intention of cleaning it. So it custodian is one of those jobs that I am willing to pay extra for if I get somebody really good. Um, I often have people with that are checking attendance, have people that hand out hot lunch because at our school we do a lot of them. And over the years, I've had a variety of different jobs and systems. Kids keep a bank book page and they note which is the withdrawal and which is the deposit. So, for example, I make them pay rent. The rent is $500. Their pay to be a student is $500. So, if they do just what they are asked, they will break even every month. The problem comes when April comes and there's taxes. And I do warn them in the upper grades that there are going to be taxes. Depending on the year and depending on my class, I've also added in things like internet cost or heating or whatever I feel like adding in, depending on the class. And you have to read your class and know that. And that's all part of my initial setup. And we go over what it is that I'm looking for and what I need them to do. I also have them fill out an application. Some years I don't do a formal application. Some years I have them do a cover letter. It really again depends on the kids but I ask them to really be persuasive. And if they're not persuasive in their application and cover letter, they may not get the job and they can have no jobs. And I've told my students this. Maybe you're nicer than me, and maybe you don't mind if they have no job, or you mind if they have no jobs. So you're going to make sure that every child gets a job. Totally up to you. And I've done it differently for every different type of student. We talk about bonuses, rewards, and fines. So, for example, they could get a bonus if a classroom teacher gives them a compliment when it's lunch duty, and they know that they can't ask for that compliment if it's freely given, like, wow, this room is neat. You guys must do a great job. Or, wow, you guys are sitting down quietly. They get a big amount. And it usually equates to about whatever is half their salary that year. So if the student salary is $500, a compliment's worth $250. So they work so hard to get those compliments. And I have teachers tell me that they are working super hard, and then they laugh because they know that I don't give them unless the teachers actually tell me. Um, the other thing that we talk about are fines. So students might get a fine if they're throwing something in my room, and I tell them I don't care if it just left your hand and it reached the garbage unless you're dropping it over the garbage. That's considered throwing. We have to define that. Probably not in younger grades, but in 6, 7, which is what I have this year, I know we're going to have the discussion. What actually means throwing? Or what actually does throwing mean? Because I'm going to have a student argue that that's not actually throwing. Um, it could be something like they were talking back to a teacher. It could be getting in a fight on lunch. And I can decide the fines, but we usually go over a set list of fines that students think deserve a fine. And I have the students come up with it. I also have the students come up with the list of bonuses and the price list for everything. Because then I can't have a parent come back and say, well, they didn't know there was a fine. Oh no, they did. It's posted on my wall. See, here's all the fines. And actually, your student signed this, and he was one of the ones that came up with this. So it's nice to have that piece where the students are involved. And I really do encourage you, even if you're not using my program, to use something like this. There are some bonuses like compliments, helping a classmate, consistently getting your homework done, and I can adjust them as I like it. Um, you can include paper money or you can just do checks, whichever works for you. And mine are fully editable, so you can call it whatever you want and you can change all of them. The idea to this is that they are paying rent every month. Those paychecks get deposited and they have to put them in their bank book, and they have the choice whether they want to continue renting their desk every month or whether they're going to purchase their desk. And that doesn't mean they get to purchase the right to sit wherever they want. It means that they don't have to pay rent. And the sooner they don't have to pay rent, of course, the sooner they build more wealth. And you'll find this very quickly that some students will not consider this a priority. They will spend on whatever rewards I have in class. So sometimes I'll have ice cream, sometimes I'll have treats, sometimes I will give them some extra time at recess if they want to go to the gym, whatever they want to spend that on. And they will spend right away and they won't save any money. And then some students will save and never spend, and all of a sudden they bought their desk and they have enough to buy their friend's desk as well. And so that means they now get their friend's rent. It's awesome. They become a landlord, and then they learn that, wow, I'm getting $1,000 a month and I don't have to do anything because my rent is 500 and his rent is 500, and all I had to do was work really hard at the beginning. So there's some really great life lessons. I've had some parents come to me and say, wow, this is terrific. My student now wants to start saving to put away for a mortgage later in life, which is awesome. One of the other perks I offer is that they get to choose their seat on the bus when we do have a field trip, and they can purchase back row seats. Now, of course, I tell them that that's always up for a change, because if they can't handle the back row, it's always my decision where they end up sitting. But they can pay for that. And I have a lot of students that save all year to pay for that. That is my biggest ticket item. There are fine tickets if you want to use those. And we often have fine officers, so they are the ones that see the kids when they're at lunch break. And if one of the students commits one of the offenses that we've already listed as a class, then they are the ones that can put down the date, the name of who it was, the offense, and the cost of the ticket, because we set all that in advance. For example, my students know that not having your homework done is a set fine, and it doesn't matter what the reason. And I tell them that at the very beginning of the year. I don't care what your reason is. If it's not done, it's not done. And you need to own up to it. And they have to write in a book that their homework wasn't done, what the reason was, what the date was, what the homework was. And then when their parents come in for parent interviews, they have to explain it. Now I have older grades, so I can do that, and I've been doing that since I had 5 and up. So you can do that with 5 and up. I haven't tried it with grade fours. I imagine it would be a little different. But if they have a fine and their homework isn't done, that's a set fine. Let's say it's $100. Automatically, the fine officer can give them that ticket. If it's something big, like they got into a fight at recess, students know, and we talk about it at the beginning of the year, that's my call. That is not their call, and they don't need to deal with that. So fine officers deal with a set list, whatever you come up with at the beginning of the year, but they don't deal with extra stuff. So that's my super saving classroom reward system, very similar to a checkbook with a bank account attached to it, but we tie in like mortgages and rent and things like that.